400,000 sound recordings come out of copyright. The latest from our daily newsletter at podnews.net. On January the 1st, books like A.A. Milne's Winnie the Pooh, movies from Buster Keaton and Harold Lloyd, and more than 400,000 sound recordings went out of copyright in the US and into the public domain. Like this from Bert Williams. Everybody wants a key to my cellar.
Down in my cellar, down in my cellar, I've been changing everything around.
We link to some of those recordings in our show notes and our newsletter today. What will you find to use in your podcast? Tascam has announced updated firmware for its Mixcast 4 podcast station. It adds better voice effects, input gain control and additional tools, but it won't be available until February. Could the UK's podcast radio be heard in more countries? A senior executive at the station, Paul Chantler, says that the company has plans to expand into the US and Australia. More new podcast episodes were published last month on Anchor and Buzzsprout than anyone else, with both podcast hosts increasing their market share by more than 1%. Libsyn's AdvertiseCast reported a record high for podcast advertising of an average $23.78 cost per thousand. That's up 6.5% year on year. The Podnews ranker shows an unchanged top 3 of companies we've reported on over the last 90 days, and a new number 1 for the person we've reported on the most. The Podfather has beaten a former wrestling commentator. Our gender balance for people mentions remains unchanged at 36%. And Helen Zaltzman discovers podcast-themed coffins. It's a Monday, so time for some tech stuff. Podcast app Fountain has published its list of most supported shows on the platform using the value-for-value cryptocurrency boost method. Podcasting 2.0 is the number 1 show, the Podnews podcast. This one is number 11. Thank you for that. The Podnews RSS feed is also now paged. Good podcast apps that support paging, like Podcast Addict, will now see all 986 episodes of this show. We've also added all of those episodes to Spotify's feed, since it shows them all, so that's nice. We get more than 486,000 requests for our RSS feed every month. That costs us nearly $5. And were everyone to support Podping, that would drop to about 2,000 requests, just 2 cents. Boostergrams are a way of sending a message and a tip using new podcast apps, and they're a great way to get in touch. Thank you to the many messages we've had over the holiday period, especially Dave Jones, who says he likes the music bed. We're looking at refreshing our music in 2022. Boost, from the guy whose voice clip saying that word is regularly used by Adam Curry, says whoever this is. Boost! And Adam himself has boosted for our mention of Abel and the Wolf, the music album that's been released with streaming sats. And that's the latest from our newsletter. For all the links, we're at podnews.net.